Hi, everybody. So, I've got a new guest on the podcast today. He is known as MugenLord on YouTube and other social media. He does a wide variety of game coverage, and we're going to be discussing fighting games today. So, welcome on in, MugenLord.
Oh, hey, what's up? What's going on? I appreciate you allowing me to join this podcast. I think it's going to be pretty fun, especially talking about fighting games,
I think
so
I
looking
think
forward
so.
to
I think so too, and I'm glad to have you on because I've always thought your content was amazing.
it. Awesome, thanks.
So how did you get started with YouTube, and how did you come up with the username MugenLord?
Oh my God. Oh, that's a good question. This is a long time, man. Somebody asked me that. Well, I had joined the YouTube scene, I guess you would say around, I would say 2006. I had, during the time of 2006, the meta for YouTube was, comedy sketches and everything like that. So I had a comedy channel at the time. It's called Brian Meets Reality. And I used to do a little comedy sketches and stuff. It really wasn't going anywhere and whatever, but the whole goal was I was trying to reach 100 subscribers because yeah, 100 subscribers was a big deal a long time ago because you weren't only allowed to upload videos that's only up to like 3 minutes, I believe it was, or 5 minutes. But once you got to 100 subscribers, you have got the director's title, and that allows you to pretty much upload videos that went past 5 minutes. So everybody was striving for that, including myself. But it didn't really work out too well. So I ended up going in college in 2006. I ended up meeting this friend who introduced me to this program called Mugen. And Mugen is pretty much a software that allows you to, or engine that allows you to create your own fighting games. It was more so made for 2D shooters, but people end up using it for creating fighting games. So you're able to create your own fighting games from scratch, or you can rip, characters from other games like Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, and everything of that. Even Sonic and Mario. You can have Peter Griffin fight Homer Simpson and everything like that. So I was really intrigued by it because I came from a creator community like RPG Maker because I love RPGs. I was more into RPGs back then than fighting games. So this was like another creator tool for me to use my creator chops to try out different things. So I got into Mugen and I was uploading like little Mugen matches, Mugen rosters of characters on my comedy channel. And I started noticing that I'm like, wait a minute, I'm literally getting thousands of views. I'm getting like 2,000 views a day just showing off Mugen matches of characters, dream matches going back and forth and stuff like that. And I did feel some type of way because I really wanted my comedy stuff to go late launch, like go somewhere with it. But people didn't care about that. People cared about Mugen. So at the time, my girlfriend, she was like, why don't you just create another channel for, for your Mugen stuff, keep it separate from your comedy stuff. So I was like, okay, let me give that a try. So that's what I did. I created a YouTube channel and I was, going around thinking about what names to name myself, but I really couldn't like land a name. So my girlfriend said, just call yourself MugenLord or something. So I was like, all right. And so, the name Mugen in there is an indicator that my channel is going to be more so for Mugen content. So I went with the name MugenLord, and then the rest have become, I guess you would say, history ever since then. People started just logging into my content, enjoying my Mugen content. I used to create Mugen like dreams crossover stories, utilizing the characters that I downloaded and everything, and then eventually created the Mugen TV show. It was a dedicated show where I, pretty much showed off different authors of different, creations like screen packs, characters, stages, and everything like that. And I'll also promote different Mugen projects that different Mugen teams within the Mugen community was pretty much, creating at the time. So it became a hub. My channel became a hub for Mugen content. I was the Mugen content at that time on YouTube, and that pretty much shot me up to about like at the time around like 5,000, 6,000 subscribers or so forth. And yeah, man. And then after a while, I dropped out of college, then went back to college. So I got away from Mugen for a while because I was just focused on college. And once I graduated from college, I pretty much came back to my channel since I abandoned it for a while. And I pretty much had to start over again because most of my audience had left. So I decided to pivot my channel to more so like gaming content. So that's essentially the history from there.
Nice. I actually didn't know Mugen was a thing until, well, just now.
Yeah, dude, they have a bunch of stuff, man. Like it's one Mugen project called was it Car Saga Wars, where it was like a fighting game that had different characters. You had Cloud, you had Link, You had Cosmos from Xenosaga. I did a whole video on it. And you had Chrono from Chrono Trigger. You can fight Master Chief and stuff like that, and Samus. So yeah, man, yeah, you can be able to play online with other players and stuff. If y'all share the same Mugen project together, you're able to parsec and play on each other's Mugen games and stuff like that. Yeah, man. So I still have Mugen content on my channel. I just don't make new Mugen content, but I have a playlist for all that stuff if people are interested to see what Mugen is all about. I even have tutorials that pretty much help you get started with Mugen, and it still works to this very day. I still get comments on it, and people still subscribe to my channel due to my Mugen tutorials because it's still helpful to this day. So they can
That's
definitely check that out.
awesome. That's
Hmm.
awesome. Could you send me the link to that playlist on Twitter so that I can include
Oh
it
yeah,
in the
yeah,
description?
yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I'll do that for you. Yeah, got you.
Perfect. Thank you. So hang on, my brain just had a brain fart, so
That's okay.
bear with me.
No, go
We'll
ahead.
just ramble along for a
Yeah,
little while.
yeah, go ahead.
So what's your favorite fighting game?
Woo! Oh my God, that's another good question. Okay, I guess I would start off by explaining like what fighting game that started me into fighting games, and that of course would be should be the obvious. I guess Street Fighter 2. That was when I was first. No, I wouldn't say Street Fighter 2 because oh my God, I gotta go farther back. It was the Sega Genesis. It was called Fighting Masters. It was on the Sega Genesis, and I mean it's a super old game because growing up, my father used to take me to my uncle's house because we had this thing called game night at my uncle's house. So it was more like it was testosterone full filled. My uncles, my dad, all my cousins, they all of them would gather at the house, and they were very competitive. So even as a young boy, I was just around video games, especially competitive games like fighting games. So my dad, his brothers, my cousins, we were all there. We used to just gather around our fathers, and we all used to participate in playing in these fighting games. So one of the fighting games that I was first introduced to before Street Fighter 2 was Fighting Masters. It's an old Sega Genesis fighting games. You can even find it on YouTube. I mean, it's super old. And they pretty much got this concept, and I believe that's where Dragon Ball Super had got this concept, the Universal Tournament concept, where if the fighter dies, then the planet gets, their universe get erased. Well, that concept was similar to that in Fighting Masters, where you had these different fighters that represented their planet. And when you play the game, when you beat your opponent, you see this big, huge explosion that happens that pops up on the screen. It represented that fighter's planet was wiped out because you beat them in the tournament. So I think you had like six, maybe eight fighters, and you had a human named Dirk. He represented, Earth, and then you had this Cyclops with boxing gloves and the uppercut, and then you had a fighting elephant with that stands on his two legs, and his name was it Mastodon, and you had all these different species, and that was the game that my uncles and my cousins and all of us had got into, and they used to just trash talk all day playing that game. And then eventually, right after that, we got right into Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 was the game at game night. Everybody played Street Fighter 2. And at the time, like I said, I was young. Then, I just played casual. I just get in there and button mash. But that was the game that really introduced, like got me strictly playing and loving Street Fighter 2. Because at the time, Street Fighter 2, especially the first entry to Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo, because we played on the SNES, you couldn't play the same character. If somebody picked the character, you couldn't play that character unless you implemented a code at the Capcom logo. If you implemented the code, you was allowed to play the same character, so you had the different palette swaps of the same character. But once Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo came out, which introduced Sagat as a playable character, Balrog, Bison, and Vega, the rest was just history from there. And I just started playing fighting games, and then we got into Turtles Tournament and many other games. But yeah, it was Street Fighter. I would say it was my favorite, and because I still play it to this day. Street Fighter has been around this long, so I would say Street Fighter is one of my favorite fighters.
Nice. I actually got to fighting games quite late, not until my 20s,
Oh
really.
wow, wow.
I do have a memory though that was kind of cool. I was having my birthday party. I think I was like 10 or 11 or so.
Hmm.
And the bowling alley that I had the birthday party at, it had some Neo Geo consoles and
Hmm.
well, cabinets actually, and a whole bunch of other ones. And I just went over to it randomly, put in my token, started playing, kind of was having fun, and then a teenager came along went on the player 2 side, fed it in, because, that's how cabinets worked back
Yeah.
then. He proceeded to whip my ass quite badly. And I was like, thanks for the games. And because that was my last token. And he's like, hang on a minute. So he went over, put in a $20 bill into the token generator, and then he just slapped a whole bunch of tokens down next to me and proceeded for the next hour to help me kind of learn what
Hmm.
I was supposed to do. So that was kind of nice. But I didn't get into fighting games really until Dead or Alive 5.
Wow. Great game to get into fighting games.
Yeah. And I would say that's really influenced my taste in fighting games too, because that game was pretty fast paced, really, if you think about it.
Hmm. Yeah, I love Dead or Alive. Like I said, my first time seeing Dead or Alive. Well, I heard of Dead or Alive on the PS1 with the first game because
Mm-hmm.
my dad we collected a lot of video game magazines, and PlayStation Magazine was one of those. And the thing was, they just introduced us to Dead or Alive 1. Now, PlayStation Magazine had this thing called, they had like a swimsuit edition. Like every summer they had a swimsuit edition where they take all the video game babes, they get one of the best artists to draw the characters, the video game characters in swimsuits. And the biggest thing they was promoting at that time was Dead or Alive 1. And I
I
mean,
actually remember those swimsuit issues.
yeah, exactly. So Dead or Alive 1 was one of those issues. I'm like, what the hell was this game? Because I said they keep promoting the hell out of these girls. And I was young at the time, like, what the hell is this? I used to just read through them and stuff. But at the time, like I said, I played fighting games, but I didn't play them like that. So it didn't really pull me in. But my first time actually playing a Dead or Alive game is once the Sega Dreamcast came out. And I had Sega Dreamcast when the system launched, when it first launched. So I remember we was going to electronic boutique, and we used to go into the electronic boutique at the Franklin Mills Mall. Now I'll tell you one thing. Uh, my electronic boutique, for us, they always used to break store date for us. We used to get games a week ahead, sometimes 2 weeks ahead, before the game's actually supposed to be released on the store shelves. Is
That would
because
happen sometimes at my EB games as well.
yeah. And the main reason why they did it at our electronic boutique, like my dad, I have like three other siblings, but my dad used to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, especially on the holidays, because we all had our own gaming systems. My dad always bought our own individual consoles, but since my dad always spent so much money on there, my dad was like royalty. Soon my dad walk in, they almost put like the red carpet out and say, "Hey, you need anything?" This, that, and the third, because they knew my dad was gonna walk. They was gonna walk out. We was gonna walk out their store spending some money. So every time a new game came out in the kiosk, they will pull my dad over and pop the game in the kiosk and clear everybody out the way and let my dad try it. So when we walked into the store, the guy named Eli, who used to work at Electronic Boutique, he wanted to introduce us. He introduced us to Dead or Alive too. He opened up the kiosk, popped the game in, and had me and my father try it. And it just floored me, was because it was the first time I ever seen a fighting game where you was able to kick people through windows, and they used to fly out the window, and your character used to jump out after them. And then the stage had multiple different layers. It was something I never seen before. And at the time, especially with Sega Dreamcast, and still Sega Dreamcast still uphold itself as far as visual fidelity. Dreamcast games still look
Also,
good.
the Dead or Alive games are always beautiful showcases of what a
Yeah,
console can do.
exactly. And that's what it did. So when I played it, I was like, yo, I never seen a game like this. Even though that with Dead or Alive, the highlight is the hot bays, which he always used to advertise, but that wasn't the thing that pulled me in. The thing that pulled me in was the things that she was able to do in the game that I'd never seen in any other 3D fighter. So ever since then, my father and I was hooked. And then Eli, the manager, introduced us to the tag team mode where he was able to actually play with four players. Now, remind you, back during the PlayStation era, the
You had
PS1
to
era,
use the link cable.
yeah. And not only that, when it came to tag team fighting games like the Marvel vs. Capcom series on the PlayStation, you couldn't tag because the PlayStation wasn't capable of utilizing that feature unless you cloned the characters. Unless y'all both used the same team, then you're able to tag in and out. You wasn't able to do that with the PlayStation 1. But with the Dreamcast, you was able to tag in and out. And not only that, it wasn't even a 2D fighter. It was a 3D fighter that allowed tagging with ease. I was like, are you serious? So that's what really got me into Dead or Alive. And I've just been a fan, of the series. And I got every last like mainline DOA game. Got every last one of them. Haven't missed not one of them.
I would love to eventually have each and every one of the mainline Dead or Alive games. I
Mm-hmm.
actually got into the series because my buddy, who is big into DOA or was at the time, he literally needed someone to play, and he kind of like, twisted my arm to the breaking point to get me into it because I was just like, hey, I don't know if this is for me because I'd never really played fighting games before, and
Mm-hmm.
I was going off DOA's, less than savory reputation at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. And then he was like, just try it. And I went to EB Games. They had it on sale for $2, and it was only a couple weeks after it launched. So I was like, okay, $2, I can do that. And then I picked it up, absolutely fell in love with it. And it was not because of how good looking the characters were. It was kind of a mix of how over the top everything was, like you described,
Mm-hmm.
but also because the game just made sense when you actually played it. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel overwhelmingly intimidating like Soul Calibur did when I tried that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bro. Like the thing is, what I like about Dead or Alive is because, see, the thing is, people would look at it on the surface and just judge it,
Mm-hmm.
and when they judge it, they don't play it, and then people would spread it around with misinformation and everything, so that discouraged. Like, and good that your friend was able to twist your arm to try it, but I know a lot of people who never bothered or never took it serious by what they heard and what they saw. But when you once you play the game, you realize that the game has a lot of depth. And what I liked about it too is it's easy to pick up and play. You can literally mash in that game and do pretty well as a beginner and have fun and get
Yep.
enjoyment out of it compared to like Tekken and compared to like Virtual Fighter and everything and Soul Calibur stuff. This game you're actually able to mash if you are casual. You're able to mash and have fun with it and enjoy yourself while getting the spectacle of the stage destruction and everything like that and the visual fidelity. But what I liked about There Alive the most was it wasn't only your character selection that you did to pick what characters you like from the diverse range of characters, but the stages itself were characters because the
Yeah.
stages had So you had to really think about like, okay, if I pick this character, like this stage really suits my character the most when I'm going against my opponent because of the move set that this character has, and I can
Exactly.
use the environment to my advantage. Yeah.
Exactly. Like Hitomi, for example, her game is very focused on launchers. She's one of my mains. And
Mm-hmm.
if I was able to select the stage, I was going to select stages where there were lots of ledges because I knew that I could launch and then get some cheap but big damage if
Mm-hmm.
I was able to make my opponent whiff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that aspect. You had to take the environment under consideration. Your placement on the in the environment really factor into it. So I was like, yo, there's a whole lot to it. And then what made it even crazier is the hold system, where you had to guess your opponent's, what direction they're going to attack and how you're going to hold. You hold upwards or the middle, or you hold downwards. So that also created the mind game because then you had to be careful of, man, maybe I shouldn't pull a long string combo because that make me too predictable, and then they'll counter attack me, do a counter hold, and then they'll get all that damage, and all of a sudden they'll counter hold me, and they'll lead them into long string combos. So now you sit down, you're like, okay, maybe I'll do a 1-2 hit to force them into try to do a predictable counter hold, and then they mess it up, and then I'll continue the combo from there. So yes, there was a lot to that game. I love that series, bro. Love
What
it.
do you think of the rumors that there's going to be a Dead or Alive reboot in the near future? I do believe there's some validity to them.
Yeah, now, all right, good question because actually I covered that like 2 years ago on my channel where they talked. It was I can't remember what article it was, but it's on my channel where they talked about, it was a rumor saying that they
That was
canceled.
actually the video where I discovered you and we started talking
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
first
yeah,
time.
that video. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that was the video right there. And I remember that. And then I heard there was a rumor that actually they're actually going to continue development. And they wasn't sure at the time. I remember they were saying they wasn't sure if it was going to be a reboot or it was going to be Dead or Alive 7. To me, in my personal opinion, I remember the video. I did say that I don't mind a reboot. I mean, because to me, in my personal opinion, I think it's the best time for Dead or Alive to make its return. Because
As do I.
yeah.
As do I, because we're in a silver age of fighting games. I've covered that in a previous video if you
Mm-hmm.
guys want to check that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, bro. So yeah, I think this is a perfect time is because I would say this. I think like apps like Discord and everything like that have really created an upsurge in fighting games because now you have Discord, you can create these communities, even if the game is dead. You still have Discord communities that still hold tournaments for games that's no longer supported by the developers, and people join these communities. Like, for instance, there's Discord for Dissidio Final Fantasy NT, which is I still enjoy that game despite people not really liking Dissidia Final Fantasy NT fighting game. But they have discourse for that where people get together and actually play against one another competitively, even though the developers don't support that game anymore. But a lot of these communities, are still around because of Discord, and it creates this interest. And a lot of these developers now are seeing interest, from these fans, and they're saying, "Hey, why not just add rollback to these old games and have these communities pretty much, still have a chance to be able to play these?" And we have a lot of new generation of fighting game players who never played these old games, but now has the opportunity to play online. And Dead or Alive 7 or Dead or Alive Reboot or whatever it could possibly be would benefit the most from this. And I think now that Street Fighter 6 and now that we have Tekken and that's having these story modes and everything, I think a perfect reboot for Dead or Alive would be pretty cool. Because come on, let's be honest. I'm not gonna lie, Dead or Alive storyline is convoluted as hell. Like, like,
It
like that
is.
storyline is it, dude. I don't know how many times I try to sit through that story and try to understand, that story. It just don't make sense. And you got to remember at the time when Dead or Alive, was really grounded in its roots. Remember back in the day, most fighting game stories never made sense because the story's always told through the fighter that you select in their perspective. So
Yeah.
you never really have an understanding of, okay, who's ending or whose story is the canon story. You never understood that. And Dead or Alive still carried that kind of like that trend with the storytelling. So I think them rebooting it, I think it'd be a perfect chance for them to
It's the
reboot
best
it.
way. It's the best way to go. Also, Dead or
Mm-hmm.
Alive Dimensions. I've played it, and I found that even the retelling was rather convoluted at times.
I had dimensions too on was the 3D was the 3DS one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I got that too.
3DS.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
that as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Still convoluted.
and the thing is, it felt like it was elements of Dead or Alive 1, 2, 3, and 4 just chopped up to kind of make sense, but not really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what they can do is now if they reboot it and they can take the story and yeah, they can chop it up and just connect the things that needs to be connected and then just chop and just get rid of the fat. And I think
Exactly.
you have a more streamlined story. Yeah.
Exactly. Also, here's my idea for it. Tell me what you
Mm-hmm.
think.
Okay.
Because they're apparently going to be rebooting Ninja Gaiden as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if they do Ninja Gaiden as the start of it, and then
Mm.
they have the events of Ninja Gaiden set up the events of Dead or Alive, and then just have each series
Mm-hmm.
feeding each other, and it's kind of like one continuous storyline.
Oh, actually, that's a good idea. Is because I think that will also build interest for both the franchises. Because I think dude, I like that. It's because damn, what they should do, you can take some of the Dead or Alive characters and put them in Ninja Gaiden, just as cameos or something like that. So people
Yeah,
who never played Dead or Alive, but they play Ninja Gaiden, see these characters. I'm like, oh shit, like okay, all right, I guess we can go over here. I'll try Dead or Alive because I've seen them in Ninja Gaiden, and then vice versa. Have some elements from Ninja Gaiden, like characters or whatever, Dead or Alive, and they'll get people to have interest in playing Ninja Gaiden. I think it's perfect, ideal, bro.
thank you. But yeah, I just thought, like, this makes too much sense. How is Koei Tecmo not actually thought, hey, there's overlap already between these two franchises in terms of characters. There's overlap in terms of the fan base a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just make it completely a shared universe?
That makes sense because I never really played. I played the first Ninja Guy and that game was hard. I gave up on the first one. Like, that's how hard. My brothers they played them all the way through. They enjoyed them, but it always scratched my head at the fact that I say Ryu Hayabusa was in Dead or Alive, but where's the dead? Was Ayane in any of them? In
Yes, oh yeah, as was Kasumi, but
oh okay.
they were just like, but wow, stutter, thanks. They were just like literally kind of unlockables. Something I
Oh
miss in gaming in general,
yeah,
unlockables.
that's a whole other thing right there. The unlockables, especially in fighting games.
Hmm.
We got into the point with fighting games to where people just want to jump right into the action. Everybody want instant results. Like people want to get in and just go online and play. And so they don't want to go through like, oh man, I gotta get in, I gotta play through the game just to unlock the character that I really want, and then I'm able to enjoy the online features. So they got into that point where to where they say, yo, let's just cut the middleman out, have the characters unlocked and just ready to go, so people can just jump in and get into the meat of fighting games. But at the same time, it kind of destroyed that aspect of that wonder, like, oh man, I just unlocked this. So to me, in my personal opinion, I think the only way to alleviate the aspect of unlocking characters, then you got to fill these fighting games up with more modes,
I
single player
agree.
mode
I
to
agree
make up
that
for that.
what are some modes you would like to see in fighting games in the future? Because we're sort of having a era where developers are realizing, oh, we actually do need to care about the single player content. We can't just have an online shell.
Good question. Good question. For me personally, I think I always use Tekken as a perfect example because Tekken used to have a beat 'em up mode called Tekken Force, where you can pick you go through a story and you actually run through these 3D environments and you play like Streets of Rage. That you beat up the NPCs who run on the screen and you will use your Tekken moves with the characters and beat up the characters and you progress through like an actual plot. And they kind of like removed that after a while and just started just doing a regular linear storytelling that you just watch cutscenes and then you play the fight, you played out the matches and stuff.
Hmm.
But I would love to see more fighting games have a feature like that. I know Street Fighter 6 have the world tour and stuff like that, but I would love to see other fighting games like Dead or Alive has something like that where you're actually taking control of a main character and you're actually walking around environments or talking to NPCs and then you run into these story segments and fight other type of different NPCs and level up your characters and stuff like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. And these unlockables allow you to, you know, unlock like costumes and everything like that for the multiplayer mode. I would love to see more things like that take place in fighting games because as a fighting sometimes you don't want to like compete. Sometimes you want to wind down, still want to play your favorite fighting game, but you want to try other things. And those other features will also help you get to understand how your character works when you play these different modes. But I definitely would like a mode like that though.
I
Yeah.
agree, and that's one thing that Tekken Ball is going to be pretty good for, I think, in Tekken 8,
hmm
because
Yeah.
it's you're literally able to do your inputs to affect the ball, and I think that's a great way to help players kind of understand the properties of their moves.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Tekken volleyball was around since Tekken 3. Man, I feel
Yep.
so old. I feel so old. I've been playing Tekken since it released. But
Hey, I
yeah.
feel old too, if that makes you feel better, and I'm only 33.
Oh, I'm 37, so I'm almost pushing 40. But yeah, bro, like those modes really made things fun because I understand the plight that even the Mortal Kombat fans are going through with Mortal Kombat 1. Right now, Mortal Kombat 1 is going through problems with the community saying that like this game really feel cheap. Really feel rushed. It feels bare bones compared to the previous entries. It's missing a lot of features in the practice mode. The single player features is very lacking, and the things that people really say like, yo, the single player features was really good with Mortal Kombat. They had combat cart, they had combat chess. I mean, NetherRealms had did a good job. I remember when during the 3D era of Mortal Kombat, with Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, and we had that for the first Xbox. And I remember they had the coffers, the coffins, and stuff that you was able to unlock all these different features. It was just so jam packed with content. And this is before we had DLC. This is before we had these live service games. This game was jam packed, and it felt like this game could never end when it came to content. It was so much in there, and they carried that passion on throughout the 3D era of Mortal Kombat. It wasn't until after Mortal Kombat 9 where they started just chopping all features, but Mortal Kombat 1 is like the actual victim of like bare bones for a Mortal Kombat game. So yeah, single player is definitely necessary for a lot of these fighting games.
Definitely. And I think that we're going to see a lot of single player content added to Tekken 8 over its lifetime
hmm
because apparently it's going to have a 10-year life cycle, which is just crazy to me.
Well, to
Like,
me, it ain't that far off because Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 4, even Tekken 7 lasted. What Tekken 7 is almost what 7, maybe 8 years old now.
yeah, something
It,
like that. 2015
yeah,
for arcade, 2017 for the console releases.
yeah. So it's not that far fetched for these games to last that long. So yeah, I can see that.
Definitely. What would you like to see added to Tekken 8? Because there's so much that they could just add beyond, DLC characters and, of course, new stages. Because that's something I think fighting games need to address in this era. We don't get
Mhm.
enough stages nowadays.
Oh, we don't. We don't. To me, what bothers the thing that I really missed in Tekken, because Tekken 4 went the dead or alive route, where Tekken 4 the stages were interactable. You had ground elevation, you had different layers to the stages and everything. And Tekken 4 introduced that, and I really liked that aspect. To me, I think Tekken 4 was one of my favorites because it was the most experimental Tekken and everything. But it didn't really catch on to the Tekken fans because Tekken 4 at the time, certain stages created these scenarios to where you was able to pull off infinites because of the ground elevation or because of some of the interactables that allowed you to put players in these situations where you was able to pull infinites, these broken like combo strings that you really couldn't break out of and stuff. So I think after that backlash from the fan base, Harada decided to step back from that and just made more open space arenas
Hmm.
mixed with the infinite like backgrounds that they used to have in the old Tekken games. But I wish Tekken like 8 would go back to experiment with those environments again. I mean, we do have them, you knock them off, but you just fall into like another arena that's like a square grid based arena. But I really want fully interactable and like dynamic type stages like Dead or Alive have. Now, what I didn't know is one of the developers that used to work on Dead or Alive is working on Tekken 8.
That was
So,
actually something I was just about to bring up. I think that we will probably see that happening, and that's
mhm,
actually part of why I'm so excited for Tekken 8 because it feels like Dead or Alive 5, just
mm,
modernized. That's the
yeah.
best way I can describe it because Dead or Alive 6 felt really slow to me. I don't know if you agree with
No, I
me.
agree. No, I agree. I agree. Tekken 5, Dead or Alive 5 is better than 6. There's a lot of things that they stripped from Dead or Alive 6 that Dead or Alive 5 just did so much better. So no, I agree.
What do you prefer in terms of speed for fighting games? We've got about 6 minutes before we time out, so we
Hmm.
can have this part of the discussion and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we can wait 10 minutes for Zoom to cool down and then we
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
get back into discussing things.
Yeah, 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 I got you. As far as speed, that's actually tricky. I mean, speed for me, I don't really have too much. I don't have too much of an issue when it comes to speed, especially if the game is natively a certain way. Like, I don't like where a game is fast paced and then the next entry they slow it down because I was so used to that game being that way.
That
So
was
speed,
exactly why I disliked Dead or Alive 6 so much because it was like, we're going to go for a very fast, fluid fighter, and then we're going to have a very slow footsie fighter next.
yeah, yeah. So that's more so, yeah. So the question, yeah. So yeah, footsies is what also determines the pace of fighting games. Because when the games are very footsie heavy, that is a lot of positioning, waiting for those openings and everything like that, which create a more, slower, more methodical type fighting game. But me, I don't really have issues with speed. It all determined on the series. If it was traditionally a fast-paced fighter, keep it that way, in my personal opinion.
Hmm.
If it was a slow paced fighter, no, don't speed it up. Like I was used to playing it this way. It was designed this way before. Don't change it up now to try to, I guess, modernize it because you're trying to capture, a whole nother audience and stuff. Because then
Hmm.
you alienate your other,
You
audience members.
alienate your core fan
The
base,
core, exactly,
which
exactly.
then basically causes a Dead or Alive 6 situation where the fan base just isn't there and the game dies very quickly.
Yeah, even with Guilty Gear Strive, there's a alienation. Like people have issues with Guilty Gear because it is more footsie based, more slow paced. You don't have that crazy over the top, high speed with the air combos and all the zaniness that the previous entries of Guilty Gear have. Now Strive is much slower paced and stuff. And the thing is, I'm not really big into Guilty Gear, but I bought Strive and I noticed like, yeah, this isn't Guilty Gear to me. Like I played some. I have Revelator 2. I do have that as well. And I noticed the difference. There's a stark difference between the two. They're like two different kind of Guilty Gear games. So that did cause a lot of controversy upon its announcement and reveal and everything. So yeah, I definitely, man. Like they really have to think about that when it comes to that.
It's funny that you mentioned that because Guilty Gear Strive is actually the only experience I've ever had with Guilty Gear, and because of its slower pace, I just couldn't get on with it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it's a totally different beast. Like I said, I wasn't a big fan of Guilty Gear. I just couldn't really get into like the lore of it, and some of the characters is just I haven't found a character in Guilty Gear that really say, "Hey, this is my character." I really couldn't find a
that
character and
that's
nail it
that's
down.
that's also the issue for me. But Virtua Fighter, which is a much slower fighter,
Mm.
I love it, and I don't know why it is that I love it, but it just feels natural being such a slow footsie based fighting game. Really,
Oh, well, it's the most technical 3D fighter like, out of all the 3D fighters. I think it's like I need to get into it, like because I don't have the recent one that they remastered or whatever. But Virtual Fighter is still popular in Japan, and people are waiting for Virtual Fighter 6 to happen, which is going to happen because they did announce that yeah we have plans for another Virtual Fighter. But Virtual Fighter is one of the most technical 3D fighters that you can ever play, and there's a lot of complexities to it. Especially they tried to mimic real life martial arts fighting styles and everything like that. It's very technical, and watch a high level virtual fighter is amazing. I
beautiful.
love
It's
watching it.
beautiful.
It's
It's beautiful.
very beautiful, bro. Definitely.
Okay, so we've got about 3 minutes left, so we will
Mhm.
call it here for the
Okay.
next 10 minutes while
Hmm.
Zoom has its cooldown period, and then we will get into discussing accessibility in fighting games and whatever other kind of topics we wind up getting around to.
Okay, got you, bro. Got you.
I will send you a link again in about 10 minutes.
Okay, got you.
Again, thanks for coming on, by
Oh,
the
no
way.
problem, man. No problem, man. I wanted to do this, so
Okay, I got the recording in progress, so we are good to go. I'll just throw back in and then we can keep going.
hmm
All right, guys, I fed Zoom some more quarters because why not? Arcade reference. We're continuing on with MugenLord, and I think that we should probably discuss a couple of fighters that we would both like to see return before we get into the accessibility portion of the discussion.
Oh man. Jeez, that's a good one. Oh man. Well, I do know. Well, Sega had recently, they did that major announcement, showing off that they're bringing back a lot of legendary titles.
Which has me excited, and I'm hoping Skies of Arcadia is one of them because I
Oh,
never got the
gee.
chance to play the original or the GameCube version.
Oh, wow, bro. I got both of the versions too. Oh, definitely a treasure. But they did, after that announcement, there were other trademarks that was recently just I guess you would say updated or
Renewed.
whatever, renewed or whatever. And Eternal Champions was one of them. So that was a fighting game back on the Sega Genesis and the Sega CD, and maybe the Sega 32X as well. I know I played the Sega CD and the Sega Genesis version, but that was a Sega Genesis fighter. That was around the time where they were trying to compete with Mortal Kombat, because that was during a time where games had a lot of finishers and fatalities and stuff like that. So that was their 2D sprite, adult like fighting game, to where you able to do finishers on your opponents. And the storyline to that game was that every fighter that you play that's in the game,
Mm-hmm.
they're already dead. And it was a tournament of these dead fighters to where if they win the tournament, they will pretty
Be
much
brought back to life.
be brought back to life at the time that they were supposed to die and to prevent their death or something like that.
That is really interesting, and
Yeah.
you just kind of reminded me of a book I really love. Don't know if you're into science fiction or fantasy novels, but if you are, check out On a Pale Horse by Piers Anthony. It's a pretty good read.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, bro. And yeah, Eternal Champions. I like that concept. I like to see Sega do something with that and have like a story mode and to break down the characters even more. So yeah, you had these all kinds of different characters from different ages. You had this caveman character from his time period. You had this guy who was literally designed after the Wesley Snipes Blade or whatever, and his name was Blade too. That's the funny part or whatever.
That is pretty cool, and Eternal Champions sounds like something I'd actually be into.
Mm-hmm.
I especially love Killer Instinct. That's one I'd love
Yeah.
to see come back. And I mean, we got the surprise update, so I'd say Microsoft at least wants to maybe do something with the IP.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And I would love to see most importantly two games I like to see Project Justice, which is Rival Schools, and I would love to see Power Stone make a return. Those two games was really awesome, especially when I was a kid, especially during it was Rival Schools on PlayStation 1. I remember this. It was a 3D Capcom 3D fighter. And just think of taking like I guess you would say Marvel versus Capcom, like as far as gameplay is concerned.
Hmm.
And you just you just put it into a 3D fighter because they had high jumps. You can just jump high in the air. And then what happens is the way rival schools worked was you had these different schools that was pretty much rivaling each other. And you had like this 3-man cell, like this well, I wouldn't say 3-man cell because the sequel is a 3-man cell, but you have a 2-man team. And what happens is the way this game worked, it wasn't a tag team game. Your secondary character is like a support character. So you can pick a character, you pick your support character, and you can call them out to do like different support type of abilities. They have like 3 different types of supports that they have that can pretty much complement your fighter. And then you have a team up attack though. Like when you do your team up attack, that your support character come up and do a team up attack with you. Now the thing is, if you pair up the characters that belong in the same school together, that belong in the same team together, they have like their iconic team that's like team attack that's specific for their character and everything, which I thought was pretty cool. But every time you beat around, you can swap out your characters. You can take your primary character and make them the support character and make your support character the primary character in the following round. And then they pretty much took it to the next level on Dreamcast by giving you a 3-man team, and they added more characters. You had a person that's from the sports team. You had a tennis player, a person that's on the swim team, and stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty cool. But the main character is named Batsu. I guess you would say he's like the Ryu of the game. But what they did was Capcom didn't have any faith in the game by itself. So what they did was to get people to play the game. They said they end up making it canon to Street Fighter. It's in the Street Fighter universe, and to connect it with Street Fighter, Sakura, she goes to the same school as those characters. So Sakura is a playable character in rival schools. So I would definitely love to see them make a return. And they also put one of the characters from rival schools in Street Fighter 5. Her name is Akira. She was one of my characters. She's part of this motorcycle gang. So that's cool to show that the relationship between rival schools and Street Fighter is still there and it's still canon. So I would love to see them bring that back. And then Power Stone, bro, I had that on Sega Dreamcast when it launched, and that was one of my first, like one of the best 3D fighters in my personal opinion. It was like an open environment. You play in like this grid-based environment, like you could fight in like shopping malls or whatever, like a samurai dojo. But these like these open arenas while you're fighting, you can pick up objects. You pick up the objects off the ground. It could be like a chair or whatever of whatever the theme of the stage is. They have objects pertaining to that theme, and you're able to pick them up and throw them at the opponent. Or if you throw them at the opponent, your opponent, if they time the button right, they can just grab it out of the air. Like when you throw it, you can just grab it and throw it back at your opponent. But it was a lot of strategy to it, is because, like I said, the environments played a role, and how you position yourself on the stage played a significant role. But why it was called Power Stone, you have stones, 3 stones will pop up on the stage at random. And you have to run across the stage and hurry up and grab the stone. If you get all 3 stones, you transform to your super form. So every character had their own different form. You had this one character named Wang Tang. He transformed. He was like pretty much transformed into a Super Saiyan, and he literally has like a Spirit Bomb and a Kamehameha to take up almost the whole environment, you know. And then when Power Stone 2 came out on Dreamcast, they added 4-player, and the environments was even bigger, which I loved, is because now the stages had extra layers. Like for instance, you'd be like in like this tomb, and while you're fighting, you can step on switches, and traps will pop up, and like arrows and poison darts and things will pop up on the stage. And then what happens is, as you're fighting, the floor will break underneath you guys, and y'all will fall underground to another stage within this stage. And then what happens is you play like almost like an Indiana Jones segment where there's a boulder that's chasing you guys. So while the 4 of y'all running from the boulder, you can throw stuff at each other, fight each other. You can even grab each other and throw each other into the boulder. And then once you get to the end of that stage, you had to hurry up and get through like this little cubby hole, and it only allowed like 2 people to get inside, and then the other 2 people get trapped, and then the boulder will crush them, which will take their health, and it would take you to the final level of the stage, and that's where the last part of the battle would take place. And then that's how the winner is determined, who is the last man standing. But every stage had some wacky component to it, which was pretty cool for a fight game of that time. So I would love to see Power Stone make a return, and even the
It's
develop.
really crazy what they
Mhm.
could do with Power Stone on modern hardware, because they can just do so much more now. Also,
Exactly.
since you mentioned Indiana Jones, are you excited for the game that got showcased at the Xbox event
Uh,
yesterday?
no, not really. I mean, I like Indiana Jones, but the fact is that Bethesda is working on it and it's a first person. They keep making games in first person for some reason. I really don't have no real interest in it, or whatever. It looks beautiful, but it's not a game that appealed to me. But
The
if
first person kind of killed it for me, but I will still try it out
uh
eventually because I love the IP, and who knows, it could be a great time.
no, yeah. It probably could quite possibly be. So I do agree with that. It looks interesting. And now I will say this. If they happen to make it VR, I would definitely play it in VR. I would definitely like to play that game in VR because I have a MetaQuest. I have the MetaQuest 2 and 3 headset. So if they ever did something like that, put it on VR, I'll definitely give that a try.
That would be super unique to try it out in VR.
Oh yeah. I love VR gaming. That's another thing that I really see potential in as well. But yeah, Power
I,
Stone.
I see
Go ahead.
potential in VR gaming as well, but I'm
Mhm.
hesitant to try it out because I tend to suffer vertigo.
Look, let me tell you something. Like, you ever tried VR? Period.
No, I haven't because I
Oh,
haven't had
dude,
the
yeah,
opportunity.
yeah, bro. VR. Well, I would say this about VR. One thing that fooled me about VR is when during the time where they actually started promoting VR, with PlayStation VR and everything like that. When you look at the trailers, right, of most of these VR games, the visuals don't look that great when you look at it from the trailer, but that's what fools you. When you watch or when you don't have that headset on your head at all, and you just look at the trailer and say, "Oh, it looks okay," but no, bro, it's like the moment you put that headset on, it's a totally different experience. It's like the trailers itself can't articulate the wonderfulness and
I bet. I bet.
of VR. And I remember I wanted to pretty much because if you guys don't know, I'm also a 3D hentai animator. So pretty much what I wanted to do was I eventually wanted to take my 3D animation, hentai animation. I wanted to take that into the VR space so people can have a VR experience. So I wanted to start messing around with VR technology. So I end up buying the first Oculus Rift S that they had. So I bought it. I paid about $800 for it, and you have to connect it to your PC and everything in order for you to run VR games, and you're able to run Steam games onto it as well. So I wanted to give the technology a try. And my God, when I first put that headset on, dude, I was like, this can't be real. This can't be. I thought that VR technology wasn't going to happen until I was a very old man. And once I put the headset on, I said, yo, we're here. No, I'm alive and I'm still young. I'm still young to be able to. So that means only going to get even better from here. But no, man, like I felt like, yo, I'm actually in this world. And what VR actually does too, it makes you approach gaming differently. It's like you learn in video games over again because you don't have a controller in your hand no more. Now you are the game itself. You're in the game. So you're
Which is
able to
something I'm very excited for. I've been so hesitant to try because of the vertigo issues because I don't want to get dizzy, like
Oh yeah. Now this is the thing. The technology is getting better because what I learned was when I first some games give me motion sickness because I found out it depends on how the developers take advantage of the lenses. It's all about the many different lenses that's in the technology itself. If they don't utilize them to to its full capacity, then you will get this motion sickness because what happens is when you move around in the game, your brain is telling you that, yo, dude, you're moving, but your legs are not moving. And that's where the motion sickness come in because it's like your brain is trying to comprehend and say, yo, this look real. You're moving, but your legs it's not computing right. And that's where the sickness come in. And I rarely get the motion sickness, but some games does give me that. So what they try to suggest you do is drink some water before you actually put the headset on or whatever like that. That pretty much alleviates that. But not every game gives you that. You get that with some games. But the game that really takes VR to the next level is was it Valve with Half-Life Alyx. Dude,
mhm.
that game is so beautiful, so realistic. It scares the hell out of me because I'm like, dude, I'm here. I'm in this world. The NPCs are looking at me. They're conversating with me, and I'm in this post-apocalyptic world, and it's overseen by this dictator government, and aliens are running around, and you're fighting. You're in this resistance, and you're trying to fight against this government and everything, and You're trying to fight aliens at the same time, and the lighting effects, the smoke, and
It's unreal.
everything. It's unreal, bro. Dude, I said this can't be this can't be real. Like, but my brain is telling me that it's real, and the world is so immersive. You don't want to take the headset off, and that's just so crazy about it. And I really do love VR, and I think the best part about VR is like the exercise apps, because I also work out in the headset too. I actually lost 10 pounds when we had to during the
Oh,
pandemic.
oh,
I
hang
lost
on a second.
hmm
You can keep going. Just need
yeah,
to.
yeah, I actually lost 10 pounds during the pandemic working out, using the boxing app that they have, and the many different workout regimens that they have, and you're able to work out with other people who have a headset and stuff like that. And the thing about the MetaQuest, which to me I found revolutionary, is because all the other headsets require you to connect it to your PC, but the thing about the MetaQuest is it's a portable headset. It's a console to itself. You don't have to hook it to a computer. It's wireless, so you just put it on your head, and they have its own store where you download games, you buy games, you download them, and stuff like that. And it felt even better because now I don't have to worry about a cord being connected to my computer. Now I felt like I'm able to actually even have more freedom to roam around and move in my room.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's wireless. So MetaQuest 3 came out, which is an even better headset, much more powerful. And a lot of developers are now upgrading a lot of their games to take advantage of that technology. And now the visuals are looking better and better. And what I mean by that is now now you look at the trailers are looking beautiful. So
Hmm.
when you put that headset on, it's
It's
going
gonna look gorgeous.
it's going to look gorgeous.
You actually got me thinking because you mentioned that they're doing like the workout games with
hmm
VR.
hmm
What do you think the potential of VR fighting games is?
Oh, that's a good question, bro. Right now they're experimenting with like different versions, different kind of fighting games. Right now there is this Korean fighting, well, by this Korean developers. Can't remember the name of it, but they're creating their own. I would say like a Smash Brothers VR type game. Like it's like you're on platforms, like how you would play Smash Brothers,
Hmm.
but it's VR. It's like you're in first person, and different characters. They have their different abilities and stuff like that. I think there's potential there. Like I said before, it's not going to be like your traditional fighting game because you're not using a controller. You're actually interacting with the environment. You're actually doing real gestures and movements and everything. So it's more so you have to wrap your brain around, because that was the thing that I had to get used to with VR, because I'm so used to playing with a controller and everything, and I'm like, wait a minute, can I actually climb this? And you walk over to it and I'm like, oh snap, I can actually climb this. Oh, I can actually pick this up and utilize it this way because of the physics engine that they got. So a lot of things that you can do in real life, especially depending on the developers that actually apply real life physics, you can apply those real life applications and those things that you do in real life, and you can apply it in the video game, in the VR space, which I think is pretty cool. But fighting games, I think that's going to be a unique thing. It's still new. I think that's a genre that they still haven't that
Figure it
still
out.
still haven't figured out, because they got the first person fantasies with using a sword and a shield. They got the
Hmm.
first person shooters, and they got the racing games down pat, where I had this one racing game that's like Mario Kart, where you actually you're driving, and when you have an item in it, when you want to use an item, you actually got to hold your hand out with the item in your hand, and you actually got to throw it like as if you're actually throwing it out your car. You can toss it behind you, you can throw it in front of you, throw it to your side, and that's actually fun. But fighting games is still a new thing. They're still trying to experiment to see how they can implement it, or to make it approachable and everything. So they're still trying to figure that out. But I think there's some growth there that with that technology, VR technology, and I think that is eventually going to be the future. I think the problem is what Meta try to do, or AKA Facebook try to do, they try to force it and try to force it on people to make it the mainstream tool or application to
When
use.
it's just not ready for that
It's
yet.
not ready for that yet. It's still not. The games look good and it's beautiful, but to make that leap, it's not there yet. It should just be there to complement consoles and PC for now
I
until
definitely
they
agree
get
with
better.
that. And
Hmm.
I think that we could maybe see Tekken and Virtua Fighter leading the way for the fighting game
Oh yeah.
genre in terms of VR, because we already have VR with Tekken 7 to a point.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
haven't experienced it, obviously. I don't know if you have or not.
No, I haven't tried it. Now the thing what they can do, it's two different approaches they can do with it. Because the thing I like about VR and the thing I wish they do more of, right now a lot of developers is only utilizing VR for first person experience. But there's some developers out there that create third person experiences in VR. Like there's this one game called Chronos. It's like a Souls game, and it's third person. And the thing is, you're controlling your character. You see your character in third person, but you're able to use your head to look around the environment and everything like that. So you're able to look for enemies that's coming behind you, that's approaching you. And sometimes the camera angles are, will place the viewer like in the crevices of the rocks, and you're looking through the crevices at your character as you're controlling it. So it's like you're part of the environment as yourself, as you're controlling the character, which I think is pretty cool. And I would love the developers to utilize that more. Like I don't want to just always play in first person. Sometimes I just want to sit on my bed or sit on my sofa and just have the VR controllers and just play a third person experience, but I still have that VR experience where I'm able to look around the world itself and pick out the little things, the little details, and be immersed into it while I'm controlling the character. And I wish they would do more of that instead of just strictly doing the first person. So if they do fighting games more, I think it shouldn't always be like a first person experience. Still have it a third person experience where you still see your character, you still be able to perform the moves and everything with a controller and stuff, but you're able to look around the environment. You're able to actually it's like you're a spectator in
Uh,
the world itself while you're
that's a
playing the game.
really innovative idea. I'm surprised no one's tried that yet.
Yeah, they're not doing like everybody's focusing on this first person experience, which, like I said, I do enjoy, but I would love to see more third person games take advantage of that technology because, like I said, Chronos and the other game with that mouse, what's the name? I can't remember. Moss. Yeah, Moss is like a Zelda type game. It's third person, but you control this mouse. And she has a sword and a shield and a backpack, and you go through these many different levels and puzzles and stuff, and you're actually in the environment while you're controlling the mouse, and it's like you're really there in that world, and it's like a storybook. So you're talking to NPCs and the narrator's telling the story while you're sitting there actually, as a spectator while playing the game. And I feel more immersed doing that as well as me being in that first person perspective. So I wish to take advantage of that, and I also wish Japanese developers get more on board with VR. And I think the only way for people to adopt VR even more is if they start making like releasing games on VR and console and VR at the same time. Like if they put Halo on VR, more people would try VR if you put Halo on there. You
Hmm.
know, they right now they had
They
the
need to basically
mhm.
attach it to a AAA IP.
Exactly, exactly. I think more people will adopt VR if they give us those triple A experiences as releases, even though they don't even have to be simultaneous release, but have them as eventual releases that people can look forward to. Then more people will adopt the headset even more because I know what Meta did was really smart was they actually got the license from Rockstar to create Grand Theft Auto San Andreas for VR, where it's going to be they rebuilding it for VR itself, so you're able to have that Grand Theft Auto San Andreas VR experience, and it's going to be exclusive to the MetaQuest headset. And I think that's the perfect way if you want to get people to get into the VR. And San Andreas is like people say is one of the best Grand Theft Autos, and I think that's the best way to get people into it. And they also had Resident Evil 4 that was exclusive at one point for the MetaQuest, and that we need titles like that. We need triple A titles like that. And people would, I'm telling you, people would actually pick those headsets up because
I agree
it's
with
potential
you.
there.
Also, you made me think of something. Since we're on this tangent, I
Hmm.
think that, the band-based rhythm games could actually make a comeback if they were done in VR.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because we already got Beat Saber. Beat Saber is a rhythm based game where you have these lightsabers and you
I'm
have
familiar with it. Yep.
exactly, yeah. So I would love like you have like Rock Band or Guitar Hero. Now this time you're actually in a virtual crowd, a virtual stadium, and you can go up against other. You will be able to go up against other bands. And since you're in like this VR type of world, and you have motion, like these motion controls, these motion sensors, now you can act out, a lot of these, instruments now. And now you're doing it in front of a virtual audience. Oh, dude, that's the perfect space for it.
Definitely. So, since you had said you wanted to discuss accessibility in fighting games, how about we
Hmm.
transition into that now?
Yeah,
Since I know
yeah,
we
yeah.
both have a little bit of limited time because you've got the
Hmm.
Uber Eats on the way and I've
Hmm.
got some Chinese food on the way.
All right, let's do this.
Yeah. So, I'll have you start off because
Oh, okay, yeah.
you
Oh man.
you pitched the topic, so I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like
yeah. Yeah, man. Like it's been like it's been a topic of discussion with the inputs and the like simple controls, for fighting games where you have the elites, the people that been there playing fighting games for a very, very long time. They're saying that, man, like, it does, like it takes away from the experience, with motion control, with having these simple controls. Because now you have casuals can come in and now able to compete with the bigger players and everything like that. Now, the first time I ever experienced something with simplistic controls was the fighting game Persona 4 Arena that
mm-hmm.
came out for the PS3 and the Xbox 360. And I remember seeing the game, and I didn't know anything about the controls at the time. And I remember I went to the Otakon anime convention because I used to go there every year with me and my staff of Mugen TV. We used to go there, do interviews and everything like that. And I remember when they had the game room had Persona 4, they had the setups there, and the game didn't come out to the States yet. They had the Japanese version where everybody was playing the game. Oh, 1 second, it's the food. 1 second,
Yep,
don't go
no
anywhere.
worries, no worries.
Mhm. Oh, you did? Okay. Let me go. All right, I'm back.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Welcome
yes.
back. So,
Yeah.
you were saying before the food?
Okay, yeah. So you have like so you have players that feel some type of way, like, yo, like now you have casuals or people who aren't really that great at fighting games. Now they're able to somewhat able to compete because of the now they don't have to worry about these hard or complicated executions and everything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said about Persona 4 Arena. So I remember going to the game room and they had a Persona 4 Arena set up there. And I remember I'm sitting in line watching. I said, all right, like this game's coming out soon. Let me see what the potential of this game. Now, this one guy was dominating, but the combos he was doing was sick. I'm like, oh, holy crap. I said, this dude's really good. I said, the game's not even out yet. This dude is like destroying everybody. So now, so I finally got to the controls. It was my turn to get on the setup. And I remember myself trying to do, your quarter circles and stuff. But I started noticing that, I started tapping one button and I was doing like an auto string combos. I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm like, what is this? And so they had auto combos and the controls were much more simplistic. And then when I look at the guy that was next to me that was destroying everybody, I said, wait a minute. So he's not really doing anything phenomenal. He's not really doing anything that's like execution, like mastery at all. He's just pressing like one button. He's doing auto combos and he's doing these simplistic type of movements and like controls. Like he's doing simple stuff, but it makes him look fancy. And that was the first time I got introduced to this, like these auto attacks, these simple inputs and everything like that. So at first, I'm not gonna lie, I felt like one of those elite players, even though I'm not an elite player. I'm not really that
Yeah.
good at fighting games.
I'm
But
not that good either, so I
yeah,
totally
yeah,
know what
yeah,
you
yeah.
mean.
Yeah. But I grew up playing fighting games, and I said, yo, this is not how fighting games are supposed to be played. I said, this dude, he's destroying everybody, but he's not doing anything phenomenal as I thought he was doing. All he's doing is auto combos. That's all he's doing. So that maybe that kind of rubbed me the wrong way at first. But as time progressed, I started warming up to the controls because what I did learn, I ended up buying the Power Rangers
Yep.
Battle for the Grid, and that has no quarter circle motions. It has none of that.
And it's one of the most popular fighting games on the
Exactly,
market.
exactly. And what happened was, what I started realizing about simple controls was it removed that barrier to entry when it comes to execution. Now you can get into the nitty gritty of the game. It now it more so focuses on your combo setups, your hit confirms, the footsies, the things that really matter. Now
Yeah.
you're no longer being hindered.
It's a tool to basically learn the fundamentals.
Exactly. So now you're no longer being hindered by the controls itself, because the problems that I had with like versus games like Marvel versus Capcom, even like Dragon Ball Fighters, is like these games are
They
so
have a
fast.
very high barrier of entry because of their speed and because you have to learn multiple characters.
Learn multiple characters, and also the controls itself. I have a hard time trying to. 1 minute I had to tag one. I never understood how these guys can do it. Like during these watching competitive play where they're doing these long string combos while at the same time able to press the button to tag in their partner to do an assist while still continuing their It's so much involved, so many buttons while still trying to get your execution down pack with the controls itself. But with the simple inputs, it eliminates that aspect of it, because it gets really, really frustrating where the combo, but you messed up the combo simply because you didn't tap the joystick or tap your arcade stick farther into the corner, like of
Yep.
your controller. Yeah.
And that's actually something I struggled with when I was starting to pick up Kokoro in Dead or Alive, because while she's a mid and intermediate character, some of her executions are very high.
Mm-hmm. So Power Rangers Battle for the Grid opened my eyes to it, because I found myself doing combos that I would never do. If I would never have done
If it
in a game.
more traditional input.
Exactly. Now I start feeling more like a badass. I start feeling like oh man, I'm really I'm killing it. Like I'm actually able to pull off these nasty combos without the fear of dropping them because of how simplistic the controls are. Now I can get into the nitty gritty, which is learning combos and setups and stuff like that. So that's what made me more open to it. And then that's when we got into a farther discussion or a look into it when the first Grand Blue Fantasy Versus came out. When that came out, they had it to where we have the legacy controls, and we also had the simplicity with the simple controls. But with the simple controls, there's going to be like a cooldown. There'll be like a lot of cooldown for your special moves if you use the simplistic controls.
And I feel like a hybrid of the simplistic and traditional controls is really the way to go.
Mm-hmm. So what happened was, I said, okay, I'll just go to my legacy controls. I don't need to rely on that if I want to take advantage of, being able to use my special moves, go with the legacy then, because and that was a way for them to try to make it to where,
It was
hey,
more balanced.
exactly, and plus it kind of like it's like training wheels. Like, so if you're a newcomer and you really like the simple controls, but then you start realizing that, maybe these simple controls just hold me back because I'm not getting, because of these cooldowns and everything, I'm
It's
not getting the
causing me
most.
to
Yeah,
not get
exactly.
the highest potential out of my characters. Also,
Exactly.
here's something that I found kind of interesting, and I love how
Mm-hmm.
SNK's handling it. In the
Mm-hmm.
King of Fighters 15, they
Mm-hmm.
actually had it where auto combos change the properties of your moves somewhat,
Mm.
because there's actually instances where your super and your climaxes will be
Mm-hmm.
safer if you use the auto combo version.
Oh wow. Oh
So like,
wow.
yeah, like there's actually added depth to it. Like, it's very interesting how they did it because, for example, B Jenny, she is
Mm-hmm.
kind of a bunga character, I'm gonna be honest, but she's the fun kind of bunga, not the brain dead.
Right.
Anyways, her climax move, if you use the auto combo, it's actually 2 frames safer than if you use the traditional one, but you're really sacrificing a lot of damage.
Right.
So it actually depends on the situation. If your opponent's pressuring you, start mashing square because she is going to be safer and she will then do her super.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically a get off me mechanic,
Right.
at least with her.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if your opponent's playing really turtle, use the traditional one, you'll get a lot of damage and you'll open them up.
Right. Yeah. See, yeah. So that was a way to implement those type of features. And what happened was the biggest discussion that came into place is when Rising, Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising, was announced, and they started explaining that, hey, we're removing the whole cooldown for simple controls. Now simple controls is on the same level as legacy controls.
Mm.
And that really caused a real discussion and debate, saying like, what are they doing? And this, that, and the third. And as I said before, after a while, to me, in my personal opinion, I start to grow a fondness for it. I think there's a place for simple controls. I think this is the best way to go about it. And then when Street Fighter 6 had definitely implemented it, we
And
sort of
they let
find,
you do it on an individual character level.
yeah, yeah. And then we sort of finding pro players using it. And they also create a different tier, because now you have simple, the people like simple Luke versus and traditional Luke based on the controls and stuff like that. So now people are ranking characters on separate tiers based on, are they more broke? Are they even better with simple compared to legacy controls? So they created a whole new tier list when it came to characters and stuff based on the control type and everything. We start seeing pro players starting to use these simple controls, because at the end of the day, it's about getting to the meat of the fighting game itself, and that removes the simple controls, remove that barrier to entry. Now you're able to just get into the fun parts and the fun aspects of fighting games. So yeah,
Yep.
I'm all for it. I have no
I'm
gripes
all
for it.
for it too, and I love how Tekken 8 handles it. So we've got about 2 minutes left.
Hmm.
How can people find you? And is there anything else you want to say quickly?
Oh, okay. All I gotta say is like, thank you guys. You can definitely check my YouTube channel out. He'll probably post it in the description and
I
everything.
will be. Yep.
Yeah, I definitely would love to have you on my channel at some point too as
I'd
well.
love to.
So my audience can get a chance to check you out as well. But I just want to say thank you guys for listening, hearing me out. This is a fun discussion, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thank you again, MugenLord, for coming on. 2 of my previous podcasts will be popping up on screen now. And until next time, keep blazing that trail.
Thanks. Peace.